4, 3, 2, 1. Buckle your seatbelts, batten down the hatches. Coming to you live from the Blazar Podcast Studios in Space City, Texas. It's time once again for the Capital Catalyst Show, the podcast for entrepreneurs to learn the secrets of attracting, raising, and closing capital from high net worth investors. Dedicated to your success, this is the Capital Catalyst Show. Now here's your host, Brad Blazar.
Alrighty, listeners, Brad Blazar here once again with an exciting episode of the Capital Catalyst Show. This is where we interview business owners, entrepreneurs, people that have mastered the art of the OPM game. That, of course, is using other people's money to build, buy, scale their business, do something bigger in life. Today, I've got a great guest. His name is Tim, and he runs a huge financial services company called Flite. You're going to hear all about his story. You're going to hear how he's leveraging other people's money now, how he helped them launch a fund. And so, Tim, welcome to the Capital Catalyst Show, my friend.
Thank you, Brad.
All righty. So let's go ahead and start with your backstory. I know you're from Detroit. I know, obviously, that you're in the lending business, but I'm sure our listeners would love to understand how you got into the game you're playing today.
Yeah, it started all around real estate, right? Again, coming from Detroit and that broken family type mentality, always heard that, the more millionaires were created from real estate than any other avenue out there. So that, as a young boy, kind of drew my attention because I wanted out of that, that lifestyle. And so it pulled me into that. I obtained my real estate salesperson license in 91, 19 years old. Failed miserably at it, again, because I was young. I didn't know what I was doing, but I needed to be involved in real estate one way or the other. Within a couple of years, I bought my first home. And now looking back, getting out of the real estate sales side of it and getting into the lending side of it really changed everything for me. So I've been doing this now for 34 years.
Wow. Over that time frame, for the people out there that might be much younger, getting started as entrepreneurs, or maybe they're getting into business, what's the biggest lessons you learned that you can share with people?
Oh man, I mean that there are so many doors and so many things I could open up in there. But again, everybody has their niche and their passion and their love. And if it's in the real estate, again, being in it for 34 years. I've been a part of every aspect imaginable at this point, from buying, selling, fixing, flipping, developing, constructing, leasing, and now lending. And that's what I get excited about today is the lending side of it, or the equity-based or hard money lending side of it, because I've been down the road of fixing toilets and crawling through moldy crawl spaces and taking calls at 2 o'clock in the morning and leaving a family vacation and having to go clean, stuff or do something, right? It means owning real estate is sexy until it's not, right? So
Then it's toilets and trash.
Oh man, yeah. So now, with the, I think that's one valuable lesson. Everybody's got to do it, right? Everybody's got to do it once to understand the landlord-tenant relationship and the sides that that both people play, because it's fascinating. But now again, I enjoy the lending game because it takes the speculation to my side out of it. I can enjoy my grandkids. I can be on the beach and don't have to worry about a phone call, and the income and the checks continue to roll in regardless.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's a side of the business that a lot of people never get into. We, of course, got our wholesalers. We got our people that are doing the BRRRR method. They're buying, they're renovating, they're refinancing, to pull out cash and just repeat the process. Of course, you got people on the commercial side. It's real interesting. I've raised obviously lots of money, and I've invested in real estate, primarily multifamily, although I have some self-storage and also some student housing exposure. And I was exposed about 3 months ago to the data storage space. And I'm like, wow, no tenants. And I'm getting paid an insane amount of money to just store data. Don't have to worry about any destruction to the asset. Don't have to worry about going back in when people move out and reinvesting money back in for carpeting and repainting. And so we are now raising money to diversify, our income, but also share that opportunity with our investors. And the cash flow is insane. I have not seen a better cash flow model in any real estate I've ever been a part of. 35% cash on cash paid monthly, with a 5-year master lease in place, guaranteeing 100% occupancy of the data storage racks from the company that we're actually in business with. I mean, and here's the funny thing. The first fund that some people that were very familiar with launched, they offer their investors a 50% cash on cash because that's what the return numbers actually can support. The biggest feedback they got and the challenge to them raising money was it's too good to be true. Nobody can give us 50%. So they pulled it back to 35, which is where we're at now. But these big companies are definitely paying for the storage of data. And we love it because it's such an easy model. You just put in the racks, you turn it on, and in 24 hours you're at 100% occupancy, and you get paid like clockwork. But what I would love to really understand and explore from you as a business owner is maybe go back over your career and pick one or two mistakes that you made that you really learned from. Because I believe if we can help new entrepreneurs avoid some of the mistakes that we've made, it makes them better entrepreneurs and business owners.
Yeah, again, looking back at some of the mistakes, and again, every single one of them are invaluable, right? At this point in time. But I think more times than not, investors try to go alone,
Mm,
right? And
yeah,
myself included, because you don't know where to turn and you don't know what advice and guidance and you really don't know. You don't know if someone's going to give good advice or bad advice. And really going alone has probably been the worst part of what I've done. Because if I would have started this fund, 20 years ago, God
yeah,
knows where I would have been, right? But I didn't
yeah,
know that or there was the ability to do what we're doing now in raising capital and letting others, participate or the whole network side of it. I mean, so that's probably the biggest downfall I faced, and I think most people face, is just going alone.
yeah, absolutely. No, I understand that. The other thing too that you mentioned is now kind of seeing the future, understanding where raising capital from investors fits in. You've obviously been very successful. I mean, Top Flight's a big organization. You got a lot of employees. What keeps you carrying on? I'm sure, you get to some point in your career where you're like, I'm set, I could retire, I could be doing something else. But what I find from a lot of entrepreneurs is they don't do that. There's something inside of them that just keeps them going and keeps them carrying on. Is it legacy? Is it just, family? For you, what keeps you going?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I've got a really deep down burning, God-given dream and desire, right? So me and my wife also run homeless shelters, right?
Mm,
We run the only family-oriented homeless shelters really in Michigan, right? So we house anywhere from 120 to 140 families on any given
wow.
night, and again, because we're a family shelter, not with dorms, men and women don't have to
Yeah.
separate. I think we've got 70 or 80 children with us, right? So every loan that we do, we participate. Top Fleet is a huge contributor to making that happen. I take zero government assistance, and we've got an absolute phenomenal success rate getting people off the street, rehabilitating them, not having, kick out periods. And again, that's because we don't take government assistance. So Top Flight
Yeah.
really funds that part of the operation. So the more I can do on Top Flight, the more I can contribute back to the street. So that is kind of what drives us daily to do the best we possibly can.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. I mean, I'm very, very big on giving back once you get to the point where you can certainly do that. And that's fantastic that you're able to do that and provide for so many families there. One thing that I always like to focus on in any business is kind of what I call that pivotal moment or, the revelation, the aha moment. You went from real estate investor to now the other side of the business, which is lending. Was there a pivotal moment, or was there a reason that you kind of made the decision to begin the lending side of the business and scale that to where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, so I ran private equity funding, kind of doing that myself for the last 20 years. And so I kind of paralleled the two. I bought 430 properties in Michigan, about 100 single family residences and a lot of multifamily and apartment complex, 430 properties between 2012 and 2020. Right.
Mm,
So I built a big, successful, it turned into an Inc. 500 company. Everything was going great with it. But then in, 23 and 24, the market was just going through the roof. I mean, people were paying me 4 times what I paid for something just years prior. So I sold 80% of that. But
Mm,
really why I did that is a lot of that money I put back into the equity-based lending or the private lending because I was tired. I had one family left the property and they turned the whirlpool tub into a turtle tank. I literally had the little rocks and dead turtles still in there when we had to go in there and clean it out. It got to a point where like I just don't want to do that anymore. And because we
mm,
had Top Flight Financial, it's 24 years in business. You know, we're going to fund billion two in volume this year. Because I had both going, I could see both sides of it simultaneously, and it just made more sense to offer the lending, sit back, collect checks, and not have to worry about the problem. So that's why it's really transitioned to one-sided
yeah.
business for us now today.
You know, I've seen a lot of stuff in my years as a landlord. Never have I seen anybody take a jacuzzi and turn it into a turtle pond. That's wild. You know, in any business, what I find about entrepreneurs that are really able to grow their business, maybe at a rate or at a scale faster than their competitors, is really kind of what I call the visionaries. I mean, I look at you as a visionary. You're able to see the future. And as you look at real estate, as you look at lending, as you look kind of, overall at the general economy, do you see any trends or do you see any significant developments in your field right now that are going to change things for you maybe over the next 5 to 10 years?
Not on the lending side. I mean, we've been holding uh, strong. I just made a post today. You know, we have a 218% increase on the mortgage side
Yeah.
year over year from last year, and the rates are still, 3 years. We thought the rates would start coming down, and it's still at a 3-year high. So if the rates start coming down, I think it's just going to get better on the
Mm,
residential side. However, I think we are facing a pretty big problem on the commercial side.
yeah.
There's going to be trillions of dollars in commercial debt that I don't think the banks are going to refinance. And I
Mm.
think that's going to open up a huge opportunity, um, because the equity's there, but they just can't get the funding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's going to be really interesting. I was actually, on a call with my wife today. We've been in our home. We refinanced it to a 15-year. We got 5 years left. Our rate's like 3.25, and I'm like, we got so much equity. Like, I'd just love to pull out $500,000 and go out and just buy 2 or 3 little rental properties. Just to let those properties go up in value. And obviously, you have a tenant, someone's paying rent, and she's a little bit more risk averse than I am, and so we kind of sat down and analyzed it. Interest rates are here. We'd be adding more years. And I'm like, you know what? Hell, let's just get it paid off. In 5 years, we own the whole house free and clear. Then we can decide to do whatever we want to do, and move on. But, you get to a point, especially if you're a real estate entrepreneur like I am, where you get all this untapped equity and you're just sitting there going, man, if I could just pull that out and do something else with it. And I'll win her over just a
I
matter
mean,
of time.
who
You
cares what
know,
the rate is? If you can put it into an investment earning 35% cash on cash return, who cares if you're paying 6? It doesn't matter. It's
exactly.
29% net increase. Plus,
Uh,
you get the tax write-off. I mean, I tell people all the time, if you've got untapped equity and you can use it to double or triple the potential payment, it's crazy
Absolutely.
not to do it.
Absolutely. And you brought about something also in that statement, Tim, that a lot of people overlook in real estate. People get in real estate because they see other people in real estate. Obviously, like you said, it's the number one wealth creator, globally, obviously. But the tax benefits of real estate are, I believe, actually one of the best single benefits out there. Certainly the cash flow, the upside appreciation, but the depreciation, the ability to write off all the capital expenditures, and take your earned income and literally lower it to the extent where you're paying very little, or in some cases virtually nothing in taxes. And so doctors, obviously high achievers, people that are making multiple 6 figures. Listen up, because the real estate game is definitely a game that you want to be playing for sure, because of the significant tax benefits that are actually enjoyed in this business. As you look back kind of over your career, was there maybe one project or maybe one accomplishment that you're most proud of? For a lot of business owners, they're like, yeah, this was a big win for us in our business, or this was a personal big win for me. What would you consider to be one of your biggest accomplishments?
Um, goal setting obviously is part of any, successful business, right? You got to set goals, achieve things.
Yeah.
I think uh, when our third company that I created in real estate made the Inc. 500 list,
Wow.
and again, that was something special to me, right? Because we had Top Flight Financial. I had 3T's Properties, which was the 430 homes, and then we did a construction remodeling company. So I had three companies make the
Mm.
Inc. 500 list. Now a total of 12 times. So my goal when we first started out was 10 times, and we have since exceeded that. And again, I don't really, pat myself on the back or accolades and all that kind of stuff, but it was just something that the team could bite their teeth into and say, yes, let's set a goal and let's accomplish that. And we did that, and we've gone beyond that. So, I mean, that was kind of a cool deal.
I love that. I love that. As somebody that's got to the level of success that you've attained, obviously, I know that we're working very closely with you in Top Flight in the launch of your fund, raising capital. Have there been other business mentors or others that you've learned from where maybe you can share a lesson or share something that, somebody else maybe early in your career or maybe even recently in your career shared with you or really was a major game changer?
Yeah, unfortunately, due to my history, growing up as a single child, growing up in an abused household and relationships, and I really didn't have or allow anybody to come close to me
Wow.
for most of my business career, and that's part of that whole thing, thinking you can go alone or thinking you're
Yeah.
tough enough or you're man enough or you have to do it alone because you can't trust other
Yeah.
people. That was just, I mean, that was burned in me from early on in childhood. So, I mean, we've really attained everything we've attained through trial and error and, failing, picking ourselves up and yeah, doing it again. But I think that's all contributed to my mentality of, being born in a broken house in Detroit. It didn't matter how many times I failed. I'm getting up and I'm going forward no matter what. So I think that is the biggest life lesson that most people today just don't have, right? Most
Yeah.
people get knocked down once and they go, "Oh, that was tough. I'm not doing that again." And they go a different direction,
Yeah.
And if you pick real estate, I mean, hang on, strap in and hang on for the long haul. If you just keep getting up, no matter what, you will be successful. There's just no way around it.
In that statement, do you have a way of dealing with kind of setbacks or challenges that you run into in your career? Or is there, just the mindset? Is it really just you've learned through your upbringing? How do you deal with the challenges, or as I kind of call them, setbacks? As every business owner, at some point we'll have a setback.
Yeah.
We just went through one here where we hired a company, paid them a lot of money. Things didn't work out the way that we wanted to. And, I'm the kind of person, unfortunately, that just, gives people too long of a runway. I should have
Yeah.
ended the relationship much, much sooner, and I didn't. But that's just who I am. I see people, I want to give them a chance, and sometimes that chance is too long of a chance. But how do you deal with the setbacks and challenges in running a business the size of Top Flight?
Yeah, I think now it's a matter of having a good team built around me, right? It's having a good spouse, a good wife who's by my side, and it's faith. I mean, because there's been so
Yeah,
many times over the last 20 years that we could have absolutely been blown out of business. And I just said, hey, it's not going to happen to us. And my faith just seen us through some really crazy odds, right? The
yeah,
mortgage meltdown, 2008 when the real estate was just crashing. That's the only business I was in. When COVID hit. I don't know how our business survived, right? It was
yeah.
just insane. Giving people, the government just telling people you don't have to make your payments anymore. Well, I'm in the lending business. What do you mean you don't have to make your payments anymore, right? And so you can only, I could tell you stories, right? So again, it's faith, family, and good friends and people around you that have really kept me motivated to
Yeah.
keep my head on straight.
Yeah, it's one thing that I learned from my coach and just being at events, and this has actually been proven by psychologists and people that study where you are at certain levels in life. It's you become the average of the 5 to 7 people that you spend most of your quality time with, and I truly believe that to be true. I tell people that are not where they are professionally, financially, just look around you and take a look at the group of people you're associating yourself with. What are you doing on the weekends? Are you getting together, talking to people about the execution of ideas or, doing bigger things together? If not, just, come to some of these events that I attend and, sit down with people that are, movers and shakers and, raising capital and doing big deals, that's the easiest way to just alter and change your mindset. I really do believe that. Let's talk about, raising capital. Obviously, we worked real closely with you and Curtis and Top Flight. We've launched a fund now, you're raising capital. Where do you see that taking your business over the next 5 years? Where would you guys like to be given where you are today and where you'd like to be with all the capital that's going to be raised in hopefully this fund, but hopefully ensuing funds? Hopefully there'll be a fund 2 and a fund 3 as you just continue to scale and grow your business.
Yeah. So, I mean, when we launched this fund, we had the idea of, raising 25 million and putting some things in place and, projects and getting going. And, I'm thankful that we put in the language in the agreement early that it was going to be scalable because honestly, just this last month, we just launched the website last month. We just got the thing going. And I think we're close to 12 million now in commitments and I haven't even pitched it, right? We're doing this podcast. I'm doing the event, on the 21st. I really haven't gone out there and shown anybody yet, but the opportunity is so big. I honestly think we need to scale this thing up, to 100 million or more by the end of the year, if not first part of next year, because, the lending opportunity is so big. And because of our network, right? I've got originators all over the country looking for deals. We're able to broker or sell files to anybody under the sun. But through this fund, we kind of get the cream of the crop, the ones that we want to keep in house. So the scalability is really unlimited.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got the deal flow, you hit the nail on the head. You can raise $100 million and deploy that capital. A lot of entrepreneurs, they look at it backwards. They come to me and say, hey, I want to raise $50 million. And I'm like, great. Do you have the deal flow to support that? Because if you are successful in raising the capital, you don't want it sitting in a bank earning money market rates. You want to be earning double-digit returns. And more importantly, your investors want to see that capital deployed. So if you're in front of that deal flow where, you could scale your raise to $100 million, that's something that we can very easily help you with. That just requires a different type of investor, building distribution with, broker dealers, where now your fund is basically a product on their financial services platform. And now you got literally thousands of financial advisors every week out of the year sitting down with Mr. and Mrs. clients saying, hey, let's put $100,000 over here. And you just sit back and, the money starts rolling in. And many of the clients that we've actually worked with have moved in that direction. And that is a very, very scalable model. So that's something that we can definitely help you with. As you're talking to investors or the people on your team are talking to investors, are you finding that there are certain things that resonate more about your business in the lending that might be an easier quote? Yeah, I see why this is a better investment maybe than just putting my money into a physical real estate asset. Is it the risk? Is it the interest?
Yeah, I mean, it's all of it. I think for your average real estate minded person, or somebody that just want to go out, like you said, buy a rental or two, unless you do it, you don't realize how much work actually goes into that, right? You end up having if they have a job, let's say, and you buy some rentals, you end up having a nights and weekends job that goes right along with that. Where in this case, it's absolutely hands off, right? So that part of it, and I've talked to an investor. I just had an investor commit 2.2 million because they have properties that they've been managing for years. And I went through the numbers, and they got a house that's worth 800,000. They rent it $3,600 a month or something like that. They said net at the end of the year about $40,000 from this property. They want to be clear. I said, so if you sell it, even if you pay the taxes, right, and you invest that, we're going to, just looking at a 12% return, and my target is much higher than 12%, but just a 12% return, I'm going to give you 90,000 a year instead of the 40 that you're making. And you don't have a headache. There's zero headaches. So when you can look at that and break it down for an investor that's already doing that with no headaches, I mean, it gets really sexy really quick because people do not like, dealing with the tenant landlord issues if they don't have to, but they don't think there's any other way.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of times people get into real estate. They get challenged, they get frustrated, and I won't say they give up, but they're like, man, I don't want to deal with this ever again.
Yeah.
It's just a pain in the ass. And we've all experienced it, it's tough, it sucks, and it's certainly something that you would like to, eliminate and get out of your life. And the beautiful thing about lending in certain sectors in real estate, self-storage, really it's an indestructible asset. Tenants move out and it's just like, hey, let's take a leaf blower and, make sure the light bulb in the unit still works, and
Right.
click a button for the next person to move their whatever in. And, same thing, of course, with data storage, which is probably an even better sector now than that was, because there's no tenants. It's just you're getting paid to store data on equipment. The thing that I would really love to maybe, sit down and understand better from you is, looking at your business and looking at, how it's put together. What advice would you give to somebody that is looking to enter real estate today? Do you think they should start off maybe on the lending side and, go to work for a mortgage broker and learn that side of the business? Or do you feel it makes more sense to maybe, learn the other side of the business, which is identifying properties, evaluating them, dealing with, building a portfolio? What recommendation would you give to somebody that says, man, like, you've hit it out of the park, I want to get into the business? Where would somebody start?
Man, I mean, again, everybody has a different mindset in regards to real estate. Again, whether it's self-storage, data centers, lending. I mean, it's so vast, right? There's so much you can tie to real estate. And again, being that I've done it all, I mean, I think if someone's just trying to get into it from scratch, you just got to pick a passion and go at it, right? And you might switch along the way, but getting started is probably key number one. Do something real estate related. You're going
Yeah.
to learn infinite amount of wisdom that's going to take you somewhere along the real estate path. But it's hard to know where or how. I think
Mm-hmm.
again, because I've done it all. Like I said, from buying, selling, developing, lending, and I finally, took my passion to the level of lending is just so much easier
Right.
than dealing with all the problems. So again, if I had to direct somebody, the lending would be the way to go. But that's a very difficult industry to get in because of the governance and the rules and regulations and licensing and everything that goes along with that. I just happen to be lucky that we built that lending platform over the last 2.5 decades. And now
Mm.
the Top Flight Capital just fits right into it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. With an organization as large as Top Flight and all of the people you have, how do you balance your personal life with your professional life and, your
A
relationship?
great team. Honestly, a great management team, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just my top tier leadership team has over 200 years experience in the mortgage lending
Mm-hmm.
arena. So I am really hands off now, able to deal with the nonprofits, able to grow the Top Flight Capital sector that we're doing now, and just kind of staying as the visionary, no day-to-day activities. So it's a good team, man. You got to have good people around you.
Absolutely. Unpack that a little bit, because there's a lot of people out there that listen to my show. And I hate to say it, if you gave them a personality profile, they're high D's. If high D's, they're driven, but they're control freaks. And they just don't want to relinquish their control. For you, as you built your business, given your background, growing up and sharing that story earlier, how difficult was it for you really to kind of let loose of the reins and delegate and let others take on the responsibilities that you were doing much earlier? Was that challenging for you? Because
It was super challenging, super challenging.
how
I
did
mean,
you
I
do
was
with that?
doing, for the first probably 3 or 4 years. I mean, no matter how big we were growing, I was doing all the HR. I didn't trust anybody to hire and fire. I was doing all the payroll and accounting. Like literally, we were handling everything. And I mean, whew, you want to
Yeah,
talk about
80-hour weeks.
challenging to rip that out of my grips. It really was. But looking back now, if you can't put your trust into others, you're limited. You
Yeah.
you are capped, you're limited, and you're never going to get to that next level. You have to utilize other people's talents, resources, and money in order to achieve greatness.
Yeah. So listen up, everybody. I'm a firm believer. I've got a lot more freedom in my life now because I've got a great team, and I'll tell you, it was hard. It really is hard to delegate and relinquish control. But I'll tell you, if you can get 80% out of three people, you're a lot better than getting 100% out of yourself. And nobody's going to ever be able to do it as good as you can, right? But of course, that's why you hire good quality people. You give them the skills, you give them the training, and you check in every now and then. Um, one thing I've noticed with a lot of very successful people is I hate to use the word rituals, but they have daily habits. I'm a big believer that we live a life that is largely driven by the habits that we've created. Are there certain habits in your daily routine or in your week that you feel have made you the success you are today?
Yeah, I mean, getting up early, working out, right? I think that's the first thing. You got to get your blood pumping, and a lot of people get complacent and sometimes lazy a little bit. And I think the guys that get out early, get up, get moving and motivated. I mean, it seems like they're always the ones that are leading the pack, right? And so from very early age, I've hit the gym and I've stayed in the gym and built a gym at the house. So I think that's one really key thing to me. If I don't do that, I just feel like I'm missing part of life, right? And so motivation is key, and you got to be self-motivated. So,
hmm Yeah, it's amazing. I think that comfort is one of those things that we all have to deal with. And I hate to use the word we acquiesce, we kind of give in, but I tell people, man, comfort is the biggest reason most people are not super successful. Yeah, it's hard work to wake up every day when you don't want to and go hit the gym or, go do what you don't want to do. But it's the consistency in doing it that gives you the monumental returns. I use the term incremental to monumental. It's like, compound interest. It's like developing a six pack. You don't get that overnight, but I guarantee you go to the gym for 6 months and you look down, you're gonna probably have a six pack or at least the start of something that you can be very, very proud of. And unfortunately, we live in a society today. We got a whole generation people basically that it's called the entitlement generation, and they feel that they're somewhat entitled. And I hate that. And I really feel that, having interviewed hundreds of people on the show and, of course, being interviewed on others, it's the movers and shakers. It's the hustlers. It's the guys like you that have the grit, that wake up every day, put in the work, show up. And obviously the results, certainly speak for themselves. What we always like to do kind of as we get towards the tail end of the show, Tim, is kind of have what I call the quick fire rapid questions. These are just short questions, really gives people a little bit of insight kind of on you, your perspective. And these are just, very, very short. So are you a coffee or are you a tea person?
neither.
Neither. Okay, great.
No caffeine. Haven't done it in 20 years. Water.
Gotcha. Perfect. What about dogs or cats? Are you a dog person or a cat person?
I would be a dog person. However, we gave them up years ago just because of travel and you get it's we're a little selfish in that regard because we're dealing with the homeless and dealing with business and all that. So, maybe later in life we'll get back into a dog, but
Gotcha. Gotcha. Early bird or night owl?
both.
Okay. I can tell that just interviewing you. What's the one thing you can't live without?
I mean, I don't know. It's limited to one.
More than one. You can always get
Yeah,
two,
no, I
three.
mean, again, I think faith, family, and fitness. I mean, those three really just circumvent everything that I'm doing. Either business could come and go, I could create another one, right? But
Yeah.
without my faith, without my family, and without my health, everything just seems to fall apart.
Love it. Love it. Are you a mountain person or a beach person?
I would do both simultaneously if I could, but I would say beach over mountain.
Gotcha. Okay. And the last one here, and then we'll wrap up. What's your favorite way to relax at the end of a really tough, challenging day?
The sauna.
Love it. That's how I end every day. I go to the sweat house here, hop in the sauna, hit the cold plunge, and I'll tell you, man, it is my de-stress one
That's
hour a day
right.
where I
Yeah.
just get in the zone. Absolutely love that. Fantastic. How can people follow you, Tim? Maybe share your website or maybe your social media. What is the best way for people that want to follow you after listening to our podcast episode here?
Yeah, topflitecapital.com, and it's TOPFLITE, like the golf ball,
Mhm.
topflitecapital.com. And that will really, introduce you to everything that we're doing on this side and get you all my contact information. And just, somehow connect with me and we can stay in touch.
Love it. Great. Everybody, this again is Brad Blazar here at the Capital Catalyst Show. This has been another one of our great sessions today with Tim Baise at Top Flight Financial, doing big things, raising capital, changing his life, but more importantly, transforming and changing the lives of the people that work in his business for him. If you like this episode, click the link, become a subscriber, like it. This is Brad Blazar saying we'll see you next time here on the Capital Catalyst Show. Take care, everybody, and once again, thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Capital Catalyst Show with Brad Blazar, the best place for entrepreneurs interested in doing something big in life, having considerably less stress, and a more balanced life. Go to bradblazar.com for more ways to accelerate your success.